I jumped out of a window and I just was like, where's my family? And then we were running up behind me and I could just hear the gunshots and they're just so loud.
Possible I was holding somebody's child because he was screaming, I was saving this child.
I seen like a kid, like she was like maybe 8 years old, she got injured in the leg and she was crying and she was on the ground. So she was behind her mom. Her mom was on the ground as well.
It was pretty terrifying. We eventually went back to see what was happening. A few people helped a few old people get up and get out of there, but it was like there were lots of bodies on the floor.
On the 14th of December, at least 15 people were killed and dozens others were injured after two gunmen opened fire on a crowd celebrating the first day of the Jewish Hanukkah holiday at Bondi Beach in Sydney. What started as a public religious gathering turned into one of the deadliest targeted attacks in Australia in recent years. Australian police and government officials have described the shooting as a targeted attack on Jewish Australians and a terrorist incident.
Oh look, I mean, this is obviously the heart of the community. This is, the core of Jewish life in this city, but it's also a Hanukkah event, It's not a random attack that happens to ensnare the Jewish community. People came to kill Jewish children and women and the elderly, and they knew that here they would have, in a relatively small area, hundreds and hundreds of people, like fish in a barrel. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to kill as many Jewish people as possible simply because they were Jewish, for the crime of being Jewish.
Authorities confirmed the two shooters were father and son. The older man, 50-year-old Sajid Akram, was shot by police and was killed at the scene. His son, 24-year-old Naveed Akram, suffered critical injuries and remains under police guard in hospital. This attack has once again put the spotlight on targeted hate-driven incidents around the world. The incident has also sparked lone wolf fears. Why are targeted hate killings on the rise? Where else have hate killings happened? Why is it becoming increasingly difficult to stop these attacks? We break it down on WION Wideangle. On the 14th of December, around 1,000 people had gathered on a grassy area in Sydney's Bondi Beach to celebrate the first day of the Jewish festival Hanukkah. As the sun set at about 6:47 p.m. local time, two gunmen appeared. They were 50-year-old Sajid Akram and his 24-year-old son, Naveed Akram. Bearing long weapons, suddenly opened fire from a nearby elevated footbridge connecting the boulevard of Campbell Parade with the Bondi Surf Club. Without a pause, the men poured round after round into the crowd, who had gathered in peace and in community. 15 people died, including a 10-year-old girl. Among other victims were a rabbi, a Holocaust survivor, and a young French national. Eyewitnesses reported that the shooting went on for 5 to 10 minutes, with some 100 rounds being fired.
It was a Hanukkah event. It was a Jewish event. It was full of grandparents and grandchildren celebrating celebrating their religious event together. It's a community event. I was walking next to it, and then there was a series of shots. It ended up being, I think, a few hundred shots.
Look at this. Dramatic drone footage filmed during the incident showed one of the shooters on a bridge stumbling and falling on the ground amid police response, while civilians were seen lying on the ground near the bridge. One shooter was killed, the other critically injured. Several eyewitnesses described the scene of the horrific shooting that shocked Australia and the world.
We thought it was fireworks at the start, and then next second we see people lying on the floor, saw a kid get shot. It was probably the worst feeling I've ever seen. Ran back up to the shore, making sure everyone was alright. Went up to North Bondi, saw that unfold, everyone was running, everyone was recording. We went back down, and then unfortunately I saw a couple of dead bodies, and it was the worst feeling. Words couldn't describe it.
I know what I saw. I saw him shoot the gun, and it just, all hell broke loose. There's just people everywhere, kids screaming, just people screaming, and yeah, just everyone everywhere. Just yeah, it was horrible.
Crowds across different countries gathered to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah and hold vigils for the Sydney attack victims. In Israel, people gathered for an emotional vigil in Tel Aviv commemorating the victims. They lit candles and chanted prayers on the first night of Hanukkah. People in London held a vigil outside the Australian High Commission. A rabbi prayed before the lighting of the menorah to mark the first night of Hanukkah. A giant menorah was lit at Berlin's Brandenburg Gate at a Hanukkah ceremony that celebrated resilience and unity in the shadow of the deadly attack. In a viral video, you can see a bystander in a car park running up to one of the gunmen, who holds a long rifle. The bystander then tackles the suspect, wrestles the rifle away from him, and points the weapon back at him. The disarmed gunman loses his footing and appears to back away towards a bridge, where the second attacker was located. The video ends by showing the bystander placing the gun down on the ground, propping it up against a tree. The bystander has been identified as Ahmed Al-Ahmed, a 43-year-old fruit shop owner. He was later admitted to the hospital for gunshot wound treatment. Donations of up to $930,000 have poured in for him, and people, including Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, have hailed him as a hero.
I mean, when I first saw the video, it was incredibly astonishing. But I think it's a role model for us all, and it really encompasses the Aussie spirit. And I'm incredibly proud to live in the area, and I think everybody is. And it blows me away. Absolutely blows me away.
I was actually proud when I saw it. I thought to myself, "Is that Ahmed?" Because I know him, and I looked at it twice, and I realised it was him, and I thought, "Good on you." You know what I mean? So when you know the person, it's extra special. So what he did was unbelievable.
Authorities are also investigating a recent trip by the suspects to a part of the Philippines known for Islamist militancy. 2 homemade ISIS flags were found in a vehicle registered to the younger suspect. On the 16th of December, Telangana police issued a statement on the Bondi shooting, saying the attacker, Sajid Akram, is originally from Hyderabad. They further added that their family was not aware of his radical mindset.
Well, the details of this attack are obviously still unclear. Generally, an ISIS-inspired attack means that the individual or individuals who perpetrated it were consumers of ISIS propaganda, identified with the organization, with its mission, with its goals, often with its tactics, and decided to carry out the attack basically to further the organization's goal. Generally, it means that they didn't have a direct connection to the group. They were not operationally directed by the group, but they simply follow the group's ideology, tenets, and basically general orders to carry out attacks without really having any kind of direct connectivity with it. What is probably also happening is that authorities are trying to find any kind of operational connections with ISIS members in Australia, in the Middle East. My understanding is also in the Philippines, where apparently these individuals traveled to shortly before the attacks, and in other parts of the world, whether those connections happened online, offline, both. I think any kind of operational connection.
A day after the attack, Australian leaders promised to immediately tighten already tough gun control laws. Among the new measures proposed would be a limit on the number of guns someone can own and a review of licenses held over time. Those and other actions would represent a significant update to the landmark National Firearms Agreement, which virtually banned rapid-fire rifles after a gunman killed 35 people in Tasmania in 1996, galvanizing the country into action.
We are stronger than the cowards who did this. And I want to conclude finally by saying that the government is prepared to take whatever action is necessary. Included in that is the need for tougher gun laws.
The scale of the Tasmania tragedy proved to be a decisive moment. The result was the National Firearms Agreement, which set minimum standards for gun ownership across the country. Under the agreement, semi-automatic rifles and shotguns were prohibited, a nationwide licensing system was imposed, and all firearms were required to be registered. The reforms also included a large-scale gun buyback program. Around 650,000 firearms were surrendered and removed from circulation, while more than 1 million guns were destroyed in total. Estimates suggest this amounted to roughly 1/3 of the privately owned gun stock in Australia at the time. On the 26th of November, 2 West Virginia National Guard members deployed to the nation's capital were shot just blocks from the White House. Washington's mayor described it as a targeted attack. The shooting marked a rare act of violence against National Guard personnel in the heart of the U.S. Capitol.
We're here to brief you on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where 2 of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice.
1 National Guard member was killed in the attack, while another was hospitalized in critical condition. The member who died was identified as 20-year-old specialist Sarah Beckstrom. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security identified the suspect as Ramanullah Lakanwal, an Afghan national.
This is unspeakable violence. An Afghani came in and did outrageous things. We need to have a comprehensive investigation, and ultimately that investigation needs to lead to justice. I've been working closely and talking with federal officials and those on the ground to make sure that we're getting up-to-date information. And also on this Thanksgiving, I'm here meeting with the troops. We have to make sure people know we're supportive of them, we're supportive of their mission. That's why I'm here, and we want every person here to know that West Virginians have their back.
Lakanwal had previously worked with the U.S. government, including the CIA, as part of a partner force in Kandahar. His role ended in 2021 following the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. The suspect was shot by another National Guard member during the response and was taken into custody. The shooting came amid an ongoing debate over the deployment of troops in the nation's capital and other U.S. cities. Following the deadly attack, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services said that it has stopped processing all immigration requests relating to Afghan nationals indefinitely. From mass shootings to vehicle rammings, stabbings and small-scale bombings, countries across the world are witnessing a shift in the nature of terrorism. Increasingly, attacks are being carried out by individuals or small cells operating without direct command from large organized networks. More than 2 decades ago, on September 11, 2001, the world witnessed one of the deadliest coordinated terror attacks in history. The 9/11 attacks involved 19 Al-Qaeda operatives hijacking 4 commercial airliners and using them as weapons against civilian and military targets in the United States. The attacks on New York and Washington marked a turning point for global security policy. In response, the United States and its allies launched a broad global military and intelligence campaign known as the War on Terror, aimed at disrupting transnational terror networks. While the War on Terror focused on large organized groups, security agencies around the world soon began to identify a changing threat landscape. Instead of complex multi-person operations, attacks increasingly involved single perpetrators, acting independently and often radicalized online or through local grievances. Experts refer to this phenomenon as lone wolf terrorism. It describes violent attacks carried out by extremist individuals acting on radicalized beliefs without direct operational support from a terror organization. From Europe and North America to Asia, Africa and Australia, security agencies report similar patterns: low-cost attacks, easily accessible weapons and targets in public spaces. Unlike organized terror cells, lone actors leave fewer intelligence trails. Their actions pose unique challenges for law enforcement, intelligence agencies and counter-terrorism frameworks around the world. Let's take a look at some of these attacks that disrupted peace worldwide.
How many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
One of the most harrowing incidents in the history of the United States was the shooting of Donald Trump's ally, Charlie Kirk. On the 10th of September this year, Kirk was shot at Utah Valley University in Utah while speaking at an outdoor campus debate.
Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth.
Charlie Kirk was an American right-wing political activist and a media personality. The 31-year-old was taking questions at his Prove Me Wrong table, part of his nationwide American comeback tour. Shortly after the event began, Kirk was fatally shot in the neck with a single bullet by a gunman, positioned on the roof of a building approximately 142 yards away. Kirk was then taken to a local hospital where he was later pronounced dead. A widespread manhunt for the shooter ended the following day when Tyler James Robinson, a 22-year-old from Washington, surrendered to the local sheriff.
We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office.
Although there were not many revelations about the possible intent of this attack, the state governor said that the suspect had a leftist ideology.
Take a look at what happened.
In several recent US mass shootings and assassination attempts, including the attempted assassination of Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, the attackers appeared to have had no clearly defined ideology.
Tyler James Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because of Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression.
The death of Kirk brought attention to the extreme levels of hate-related violence in the United States. The state of Utah has some of the loosest gun control laws in the United States. Adults over the age of 20 do not need a permit to carry a firearm. There have been 380 mass shooting incidents this year as of September 1st. Car ramming attacks in public places around the world have also brought attention to the use of vehicles as weapons. Last year, on the 20th of December, a fatal car ramming attack occurred at a Christmas market in Magdeburg, Germany, which killed 6 people and injured over 300 others. The suspect was identified as Taleb al-Abdulmohsen, a doctor from Saudi Arabia. He has been on trial since then.
The perpetrator has been arrested. It is a 50-year-old person from Saudi Arabia who entered the Federal Republic of Germany for the first time in 2006. He had a settlement permit and therefore a permanent residence permit.
The attack happened when the market was very crowded with Christmas revelers and lasted just a minute and 4 seconds. A 9-year-old boy was among the victims. According to the authorities, his aim was to kill an indeterminate number of people. Hundreds of people created a makeshift memorial with flowers and candles at the nearby church, while the Magdeburg police urged the local people to stay home.
I have to say, I didn't expect so many people to gather here today because I suspected that many of them were afraid, which is understandable. But I think it's even nicer that there's no room for that and that people are honoring the victims and gathering here for this purpose.
This year too, German authorities said that they had arrested 5 men on suspicion of a plot to plow a vehicle into a Christmas market. The Munich Public Prosecutor's Office suspected these men of planning an Islamist-motivated attack on a Christmas market in southern Germany. The rising number of casualties in each attack raises serious security concerns about violence motivated by religious beliefs. And there was this lone wolf attack that stunned everyone. 14 years ago, on the 22nd of July 2011, a fertilizer bomb exploded outside the office of the then Prime Minister of Norway, Jens Stoltenberg, in Oslo. After the bombing, the attacker took a short ferry ride to Utøya Island, approximately 32 kilometers from the capital. The attacker, who was wearing a police uniform, opened fire on young adults at a Labour Party youth camp. He then roamed the grounds of the island, killing campers trying to escape. A total of 77 people lost their lives in both incidents. The attacker was later identified as Anders Behring Breivik, a right-wing Christian extremist with a hatred of Muslims. On the 24th of August 2012, Breivik was sentenced to 21 years in prison. Targeted, hate-driven attacks and lone wolf violence are no longer isolated incidents, but a persistent global security challenge. From Sydney to Washington, the threat of mass shootings is quite evident. As tactics evolve and threats become harder to detect, the question remains the same: how prepared are we to prevent hate from turning deadly?